Good morning.
Good morning.
Christ is in our midst. This is an interesting year in that some of the great saints of the church fall on a Sunday. Actually, that happens a lot in December because there's so many great saints that land that their feast is in December. And today, last week we talked about St. Nicholas. Last Sunday was St. Nicholas's Day. Today is St. Herman of Alaska. And I felt I would be remiss if I didn't spend a few moments talking about St. Herman of Alaska. In the back of the church, you see the larger, that kind of back corner there, with the red candle in front of it. We see the candle in front of St. Raphael, Bishop of Brooklyn. And that area, that little area with the St. Raphael and 5 other icons around him, that's kind of our American saints area. And to the left of Raphael, they're looking at the wall, and the top one is St. Herman of Alaska. And you can go take a peek later on. That's St. Herman of Alaska. St. Herman was the first saint canonized in America. That is kind of thought of as one of our American saints. We call him an American saint, although he wasn't really born in America. He was born in Russia, and really Alaska, when he went to Alaska, was part of Russia at the time. But now Alaska is part of the U.S., and when we think of Alaska and we think of the work of St. Herman in Alaska, we think of him really as our first American saint. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about him. He was born in 1756. So we know there was, things going on here in the U.S. at that time, as they were beginning to be thinking about independence. In 1772, he was 16 years old, and he became a monk. And he eventually went to the Valam Monastery, which was part of Russia, that area, but it's like right next to Finland. Today, if we look at where Finland is, that's where he became a monk. 10 years later, Alaska became a Russian territory. And about 10 years after that, they decided to send a missionary group from Russia into their new territory in Alaska, because there were lots of folks living there. Not only that, but that area became a great fur trading commerce. There were lots of Russian fur traders who were going back and forth, and the government felt that these folks needed a church to go to when they were over there in Alaska. And also the people that were there, the native people who were Aleuts, they wanted to share the gospel with these folks as well. And so a group of monks, 10 monks, were chosen to go from Valam Monastery to Alaska. And St. Herman was one of those. He ended up going. Once he got there, he realized things weren't as good as he had thought. The picture wasn't what had been described to him about the condition of the church there. There really wasn't any church there. There weren't any church buildings. He was told that there were some. He was not a priest. He was a simple monk, and he thought there was a more alive liturgical life there, but there wasn't. He ended up moving to an area and to an island called Spruce Island. Spruce Island is still there, and you can go to Spruce Island today and look at the place where St. Herman lived. He built a hut for himself on this small island. When he got there, he realized that the native people, the Aleuts, were being abused commercially, economically, morally, by the Russian traders. All of a sudden, he almost kind of flips aside, rather than representing the authorities, he goes to the side of the Aleuts, and he starts defending the Aleuts. The Aleuts would come to him and beg him for help. He learned the Aleut language, started saying prayers for the people in the Aleut language. They started calling him Appa, which means grandfather, and the people just came to love him. And this became one of the central ways that Orthodox Christianity, not that it became, but it became visible, let's say, of how did Orthodox Christians evangelize. They did not go to the people and say, this is what you have to do. They were more like St. Herman, who built a hut, but ended up loving the people and the people loving him, and then the people eventually desiring to participate in what Herman was. They wanted to know more about Herman. They wanted to learn more about his faith. They believed and trusted in him because they felt his love from him so much. So this was the central aspect and method. I don't even think he was consciously thinking of it as a method. It was just his love for them that drew them closer to him and drew them closer to the faith. He started really defending them. The Aleuts would oftentimes collect seal furs and otter furs for the fur traders. At first they were getting some blue glass from Russia, which is something that they really liked. And blue glass was much cheaper than the fur that they were giving, but they didn't have a sense of the market value of things over in Russia and things like that. And so the Russians were really making out big from this trade that they were doing. Eventually someone else got in charge of this group of the fur traders and stopped giving them anything for their pelts, just demanding it from them and really promising to make their life miserable if they didn't really help the Russian fur traders. And so this is where Herman really became an outspoken advocate for the Aleut people, to the point where he was imprisoned a few times. They tried to kill him a few times, and he always somehow managed to get around these things. There was a epidemic back then, I think it might have been smallpox, I'm not positive, where lots of people died, and St. Herman ministered to the people. He didn't get sick himself, but he cared for them. A lot of the children were orphaned because of this epidemic, and he ended up, it was almost like he adopted many, many children, because he ended up taking care of them and helping once parents had died. He would make cookies for them, he'd bake for them, and so everybody loved this St. Herman. So St. Herman lived there. He lived there for the rest of his life. There's a story I wanted to share with you. One time there was a ship that had come to Alaska from St. Petersburg, and the captain was a highly educated man. He had been sent to America by the order of the emperor, of the Tsar at the time, to check on their colonies in Alaska. And there was the captain, there were 25 officers with the captain, and Father Herman was invited onto the ship to meet the captain, to meet the other people on the ship. And Father Herman, in their conversation, and they were saying, tell us something, Father. Give us some wisdom, which is kind of a polite thing that people would do. And Father Herman, St. Herman, he asked them all one general question. He said, gentlemen, what do you love above all? What will each of you wish for your happiness? That's what he asked them. And one said, I want to be the captain of my own ship. One said, I'm hoping to get a wife eventually and have a large family. That would bring me the most happiness. And others said similar things. And then St. Herman said, is it not true that all your various wishes can bring us to one conclusion? That each of you desires that which in his own understanding he considers the best, the most worthy of his love. And they all agreed with him, yes, I guess that's true. Would you not say, is not that which is best above all and surpassing all, and that which by preference is most worthy of love, the very Lord, our Jesus Christ, who created us, adorned us with such rituals, gave life to all, sustains everything, nurtures all, who is himself love and most beautiful? Should we not then love God above everything, desire him more than anything, and search him out? And they said, well, yes, Father, of course, we all do that. That's just self-evident. We all do that. And St. Herman said, that's amazing that you all do that. I am a sinner, and I can't do that. I want to do that, but I don't do that. So many things come up in my life and keep me from doing that very thing. And they're kind of looking at him now. And he said to them, can we make a deal together? Can we say that from this time, from this very minute, we will try to love God more than anything and to fulfill his holy will? And he ended the conversation like that. And the people, how they reacted to, how they responded to that in their life, I don't know. But I'm sure it was something that they kept in their memory for all their life. St. Herman was a person who gave himself fully to his faith, to the Lord. He was part of a country. He was part of the nation. He was part of Russia. But really, his first love was the Lord. And his first responsibility was to love and care for the people around him, and especially the people who were most in need. This is what he saw as guidance in the will of God in his life. So today, on the 13th of December, we remember him, St. Herman of Alaska. He's one of the great saints of the Orthodox Church. He loved the Aleut people. The Aleut people loved him. For a little bit, the Russian people, especially the fur traders, not the other monastics, but the fur traders had trouble with him. But he was also a father to them too. He didn't give up on them, but he continued to try to love them and care for them, but to protect those in need. So this is St. Herman. Through his prayers, O Lord, have mercy upon us and save us. Amen. Christ is in our midst.